Hello, welcome back to Truly Knits. I'm Chelsea, and today I am bringing you a spring knitting ideas video. I love watching seasonal planning videos, but I cannot be depended upon to make everything that I talk about. I'm much more of a dreamer than a doer when it comes to knitting. I love coming up with schemes to make projects, but the rate that I have been knitting at the last year is much slower than I have been in 2022, 2023. So I mostly just like to try and inspire myself to find a project to do during each season. And so since I've recently cast off my Olga sweater, which is what I'm wearing today, I need a new garment knit. So I've been brainstorming a lot, thinking about things in my queue, yarn that's in my stash, and trying to come up with a few things to inspire me for the season. So I thought I would share them with you. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chelsea. I live in Shoreline, Connecticut. I just recently moved here from Seattle, Washington, and I'm loving it. I have been knitting for 3 years and started my YouTube channel pretty soon after I started knitting because I could not stop talking about knitting. So here we are. Let's get started. The first project I want to talk about is something that was inspired by my stash. And so the yarn that inspired me is yarn that I've had in my stash since February 2022. And it is Cumulus by Fyberspates, which is a baby Sari alpaca and mulberry silk blend. This is my all-time favorite lace weight yarn. The softness is unmatched. It's much thicker than Mohair and more... Sari generally tends to be more matte than Mohair, in my opinion. I said Sari, not Sari. Mohair has a little bit more of a luminescent quality and Sari's a little bit more fluffy, maybe. So this is in the color 902 Rust. And I bought this from Starlight Knitting Society in Portland when I went there for... No, I didn't even go there for the Rose City Yarn Crawl. It was the week before. I didn't even know about the Rose City Yarn Crawl when I went there. This was a road trip that I took when I first started knitting because there were all these stores I wanted to visit in Portland. And so I just up and took myself there, and this is what I bought. So I have 10 skeins of this beautiful rust-colored Sari. I don't remember if I had something in mind when I bought it 3 years ago, but whatever it was, it's definitely changed. And so I've been thinking a lot about doing a lace weight cardigan, and I am a serial Cumulus blouse knitter. I have 3 Cumulus blouses now that are all double-stranded Mohair or Sari, or a combination of the two. And it's one of my favorite things to wear in the spring. For some reason, I feel like 2 fluffy lace weight yarns held together makes the perfect spring fabric. It is a little bit wind blocking, but there's still some space for just enough of a breeze to get through. And it's not overtly warm. It's not too thin. I don't know, there's just something about double-stranded lace weight that I love wearing in the spring. So I have not actually ever knit a cardigan for myself, either last year or the year before. I was really inspired by Lydia Habarber's cardigan number 6 that she made in this kind of mustard yellow color. And so that's kind of what's been on my mind lately. But I found this pattern by Cookie the Knitter called the Som cardigan, S-O-M, Som. And I thought this would be really pretty in that lace weight pattern. It feels maybe a little feminine for me, but you know, I don't want all of my looks to be the same, so I do like having a little bit of variety. So it's a pretty feminine cardigan, especially with the fluff and the lace pattern. This is a color that may not seem inherently springy to anyone, but to me it could go really nicely with soft pink, with a blue. I'll probably wear it most of the time with a white t-shirt and jeans, but this has been something that's been kind of percolating in my mind for the last few months. I think I might have actually kind of thought of it in the fall, but I feel it could be a nice spring knit. Cardigans overall are something that I want to try and incorporate more into my knitting wardrobe because all I've ever made is pullovers. I have made 2 small cardigans for my niece and nephew, but I've never made one for myself. So this is definitely one that, this one is actually leaning towards plan rather than an idea, because I really want to have, and even if I deviate from this specific pattern, I would really like to make a cardigan with this. I have to make something with it this year. I think I should. I think I deserve it. I've had it since 2022. Let's go. Let's go. So that's my first kind of spring inspiration thought. I have some more mohair and fluff stuff to share, but another thing that just screams spring to me is fingering weight garments, which I only have maybe one of. I think I've made a camisole, and then I have a tee, the Anchor Tee by PetiteKnit, in a fingering weight. And it's such a nice feel, and I would really like to knit another fingering weight garment. And another one that's really inspiring to me is the Market Henley by Claire Jackson, who I've met a few times at knitting festivals. And she's so lovely and so cool. And I just fell in love with this pattern as soon as she released it. I actually think there is a world where I can get away with making it with 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn. I have this really amazing yarn from Sunday Fibre Co. That's Barefoot Organic Sock, 80% merino and 20% nylon, eco superwash. And the color is Marigold. It's a 3-ply fingering weight. And the smallest size of the Market Henley, I think, uses something like 900 yards. And technically I would have, if each one was actually 420 yards, I'd have 840 yards. They might be a little bit more, who knows? Maybe I'll have just barely a shorter sleeve, but I think I could get away with it. So I kind of want to try. It's a bit more of a straw yellow than maybe the camera's showing. It might be a little more buttery on screen, but it's kind of like a hay yellow. This has also been in my stash for upwards of 2 years for sure. I think I got it summer of 2022 when I was in my hand-dyed yarn craze. Fingering weight garments just have such an amazing drape to them, and I feel like this, with a little bit of extra texture from I think it's some kind of broken rib stitch, I just feel like it would be the perfect spring layering piece. It's just that I don't know how, I don't often wear, I don't think, light colors, and my skin is very pale and my hair is medium dark. So I don't know if I think it might not look the most flattering on me. I don't know. But I do think it would be a really cute garment in this color. And I also struggle with buttons. I can never quite envision a button on a garment, like how it's going to look, if it's going to work. So technically, I guess I could make this an open Henley, which would also work. But yeah, I just think that this project would be such a fun spring knit, and I would really enjoy wearing the garment in the spring. So that is another one of my ideas. And then another yarn that I have in stash is actually a yarn that I bought for something specifically. And it is Sorella Yarns classic sock base in the color Theater from the Autumn in New York collection. It's this kind of, how would you even describe this? Brown pink. I bought this with the intention of making the Jenny sweater, but I didn't buy the mohair. And then at Flock, I think this last summer, I found this mohair by Les Garcons that is in the colorway Jill's Dusty Rose, and I thought it was such a nice pair. So this was going to be my Jenny sweater. I no longer feel that this color looks good on me. I don't know quite what it is. It just seems a little, I used to be obsessed with it. And so I don't know if just my taste has changed or if I think it might not actually look that great on me. But this, I'm actually thinking about destashing and like parting ways with, moving on from. But I think I'm a fan of the mohair. I think the sheen adds a different quality to it. It has a little bit more pink than the Theater. The Theater seems to be a little bit more on the brown side. And something that has been really inspiring me lately is the Cloud Blouse by PetiteKnit, which I recently discovered is 2 strands of lace weight. I thought that it was a fingering and a lace weight, but I just found out that it's not. So that is another idea that I have, because I have so many Cumulus blouses. I have been thinking about making the Cumulus O-neck just to mix things up a little, but now I'm thinking of mixing things up even more, doing the Cloud Blouse. Again, I mean, I already spoke about my thoughts on 2 strands of fluffy lace weight for spring. Creates such a nice fabric, perfect for the temperatures this time of year. And so it would be, and I just feel like I like this shade just a little bit more on me. It's more of a terracotta undertone, I think, and this is more of a pink undertone. If I'm talking crazy, let me know. But, and I mean, I think together they would be pretty. But I've really struggled to come up with projects with garments using superwash yarn. There's just something about it that has not been calling to me lately. So speaking of Cumulus blouse O-neck, I do have another mohair sweater quantity in stash, and it is this Lana Grossa Silkhair Super Kid Mohair. 70% mohair and 30% silk, 210 meters, so about 225 yards. In this color white green, which is a very light kind of celery, sagey color that I think is so pretty. And I got this to pair with another fingering weight yarn that I'm destashing, but I really still love this color, so I'm thinking about using it for something else. And I already have a bright green Cumulus blouse, but I thought this would also make a really pretty springy blouse. Obviously the color is very light, almost a pastel, which are obviously really popular for spring, but not quite. It's a little more, has a little more of an earthy green hue to it. I, again, don't really know if the camera's quite picking it up correctly. This could, of course, too, work with any of the other patterns I talked about already. This would make a beautiful cardigan. Maybe I should think about making another mohair cardigan out of this. Not a bad idea. This would definitely be a color that I could get some cardigan use out of, especially if I'm trying to expand outside of making just pullovers. One more quantity that I have in stash that I've been on the fence about destashing or not is this pair by Filcolana. This is the Arwetta classic sock yarn, and this is the Tilia mohair. So this one is 80% superwash merino wool, 20% nylon, and then this one's 70% kid mohair, 30% silk. And I will put in the description which one is which, but one of these is camel and one of these is caramel. I can't remember which. I feel like this is camel and this is caramel. But I had purchased these to make the caramel sweater by PetiteKnit, and that feels a little blah to me at this point. So this one, I have now considered making this my Jenny sweater / doing a Jenny jacket, Jenny v-neck cardigan jacket, one of the Jennies, because my friend Megan and I really want to knit the Jenny together at some point this year. So I've thought about making this the yarn combo for that project. My other thought is doing the Colette sweater, blouse, something by Sari Nordlund, which I feel like would also be a really pretty layering piece for spring. I feel like doing a fingering and a mohair makes a much more delicate fabric than just doing a DK weight. I have a couple, at least one DK weight sweater quantity in my stash that is kind of a springy color, but making a DK weight woolly sweater right now doesn't quite feel like the vibe. But making a fingering and mohair kind of lighter weight drapier type of material does feel a little more spring to me. And I don't usually lean towards neutrals much at all anymore. I always feel like knitting with color because that's what inspires me the most, pick up my needles and actually work on the project. However, I feel like this is a really nice neutral. Like you can see they're slightly different colors, but I think they would look so nice together. This is almost more of like a peanut buttery shade, if you ask me. And this one has more of a true earthy brown undertone. But like I said, I've been on the fence about destashing this forever, but I actually can see it as a cardigan, I think, in my wardrobe. So I think that could be nice. If you have any other pattern ideas for me that would be a mohair and fingering cardigan, I would love to hear them. Another pattern that has interested me in the past is the August cardigan by Joanna Garish. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, But that one is a really pretty simple cabled cardigan that I feel like would also look really nice in a basic neutral. I think I just want something with a little extra texture. But this would be a really cute stockinette as well. The Maggie cardigan could be a nice one with this. I don't know what the gauge on that one is, but I feel like most of petite knits are mohair plus fingering. So that could be an option if I did want to go the stockinette route. But those are my spring knitting ideas for this year that were mostly inspired by my stash, focusing on cardigans, fingering weight garments, mohair, and Sari. Lots of floral hues, I would say, with the soft yellow and the soft pink and the soft green, and things that you can layer over a white t-shirt, which is what I always do every day of my life. If I had infinite yarn options, another category I would look at a lot is slipovers. I think they look so cool. I haven't figured out a way to integrate them into my regular wardrobe yet, but I think they look really cool on other people. Another fingering weight garment that I would really like to knit, but I don't know if I have the right yarn for it in my stash right now, is the Lunan tee by Rebecca Clow. It's a really nice textured tee that you can do a polo neck or a regular crew neck for, and it is exactly the kind of top that I like to wear. I guess because that's a tee, maybe I will think on that more for summer. But that is all I have for spring knitting ideas today. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a short one, but I just wanted to get everything out of my brain and not onto paper, but out into the world so that I can actually start focusing on the things that I want to make real. It's either gonna start with the cloud blouse or the psalm cardigan. So both of these colors are just inspiring me so much for spring. So we'll see. You can stay tuned on my Ravelry. I always update that first with any projects that I'm starting. All of the links and information will be in the description box below. You can feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. My next one is going to be a monthly knitting update talking about finished objects, including my Olga sweater by PetiteKnit, whips, acquisitions, all the things like that. So feel free to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I will plan to see you in the next one. Bye.